All right. What is going on, everybody? We are back. Trying to be a bit more consistent with this page. I'm going to send out some links, get some people in here ready to go. We are going to have multiple things going on today. 2-round mock draft, which I literally put pen to paper and did the entire thing previously. So this way we didn't have to sit here and actually think about the picks. I already did a lottery simulation, so I customized the lottery for the mock draft that we're going to do. So yeah, we're going to be all ready to go. Give me 1 second as I send out links, and we will be on our way. We're going to start things off with the bracket. I think I'm going to switch it up a bit, save the mock draft for last. I think that's something that you guys definitely enjoy most. So let me do this. All right. Welcome to everybody who is just tuning in. If you guys want to join the conversation or want to join the panel, feel free to let me know. And here we go. Let's start things off. So I'm going to share my screen. We are going to go directly to the bracket. I've already made multiple. I am heavily invested in March Madness every year, like an absolute freak. I'm not sure how you guys are when it comes to March Madness, but I absolutely adore it. I think it is one of the greatest things ever. By far one of the best sporting events of the year. JD, what's going on, man? How are you? So let's see. I should be sharing screen. Yeah, there we go. Just popped up. All right, so let's get into this. I'm gonna pull up my comments on my phone, so this way I can at least see what you guys are saying. All right, let's see. All right, comments are up. John, what's going on, my man? How are you? One could hope for Cooper Flag, am I right? So I got the comments pulled up. We're all set to go. If you guys are new around here, make sure to subscribe to us. Also, if you aren't following me already on Instagram, feel free to do so now at NetsPress, one of the fastest, most reliable source for all things Brooklyn Nets news. By far one of the only, and I hate to say it too, because at one point in time I wasn't, but definitely one of the more consistent Nets pages now. Unfortunately, our community has died a bit, but hopefully it'll grow back up at some point. So make sure to go follow me over there. And also, if you want the most up-to-date college basketball news, trying to get a little bit more consistent with it. I had to go on a business trip for 2 days, so I was unable to post anything. Trey Johnson just hit a nasty fadeaway 3 over 2 guys. They're up 8. I wasn't able to get anything out this week, or I should say the past 3 days because of this trip, but we'll start posting a little bit more consistently as March Madness rolls around. But enough talking. Let's get into the mock draft. Let's get into the bracket, I should say. So round of 62, we're going to go from left to right throughout the entirety of this. There's some teams that I have as upsets that I just don't have an analyst as to why I'm choosing them. I just have gut feelings. We can look into the previews and I can break things down that way. But there definitely are a few teams that I'm not too familiar with that I may have winning. So don't mind me if I can't give you the best up-to-date analysis on it. Starting off on the top left, Auburn over Bama State. I'm sorry, it is the easiest pick of the year. Auburn's going to smoke them. It's truly that simple. When you have a team that's formed with a bunch of 22 to 24-year-olds in college basketball, it tends to go in your favor. Louisville versus Creighton. This is going to be one of the best games of day one, or I should say day 2, because it's on Friday. Actually, is it Friday or is it tomorrow? It is tomorrow. Yeah, this is going to be one of the best games of tomorrow. The 8 versus 9 seed, Ryan Kalkbrenner versus Louisville. I'm going Louisville. I think they have one of the best defenses in the country, and they're just a gritty team. Louisville, Texas Tech, those are the types of teams that always tend to make it far in these tournaments when they do make it, because they're always well coached and they always have great defensive players. So I think that's what's going to help catapult them over Kalkbrenner and Creighton. Michigan versus UC San Diego. This is where I'm going to go with my first upset. I'm going to preview this for you guys because I was looking into it. I'm a sports bettor. I'm not sure how you guys are, but to me, you can see by the record 30-4 to 25-9. Records don't always show the full details, though. If you look into some of the top players, every player I shouldn't say every player, but their 2 main players already outscore Michigan. Michigan isn't the greatest defensive team either, in my eyes. Michigan also, if you look at some of the players or some of the teams they've played, their notable games, they've struggled at the beginning of the season. They picked it up at the end of the season, but they're all close games outside of Purdue. They won by 1 against Maryland. They won by 6 against Wisconsin. There's a couple of games. They won by 2 against Purdue there. They lost by almost 30 to Purdue. They lost by 13 to Michigan State, lost by 6, lost by 17. So to me, if you look at the teams that UC what is it? UC San Diego. They played San Diego State, kept it close. They haven't really played. They played Utah State. That's a good team. They're currently ranked 10th, going up against UCLA. But to me, it's the offensive power of UC San Diego, and that's why I'm going with our first upset of the day. I also have them in one of my parlays, which I will give you guys in a little bit. Texas A&M versus Yale. I have a very strange feeling about Yale. Again, I'm going to give you guys the preview: 22-7 versus 22-10, a really good matchup. You don't really think of Yale as much of a basketball school. I mean, let's be honest, we don't think of them at all as a sports school. But again, if you look at the offensive power that they have, their 2 top scorers practically outbeat the 2 top scorers for Texas A&M. Offense and defense is a huge thing in college basketball. I mean, it's huge, of course, in anything, but defense specifically is something that's very, very important in college basketball because teams actually play it. Teams actually run sets offensively. So to me, it really comes down to how the system and the schemes are and how the coaching is. Coaching is probably one of the most important things when it comes to March Madness. And also having a veteran presence in terms of players who have been with you for multiple years, right? A lot of the times, some of these 18, 19-year-old built-up teams of freshmen don't really make it too far because of the simple fact that they don't have the experience, which is why we've seen numerous number 1 seeds go down. So Kentucky being one of the ones most recently. I'm not sure if they were number 1 that year, but it was the year with Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd. I think they lost. It was either round 1 or in the round of 32. But as you can see here, Texas A&M really struggling against top talent down the stretch of the season. They started off not too high. I mean, they won their first 3 against top-ranked teams. Texas and Texas Tech, definitely good wins. We'll get to Purdue in a second, but losing to Bama, losing to Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, and then they actually beat Auburn 14 days ago. So yeah, 2 weeks ago, 15 days ago, actually. Today's the 19th. But if you look at Yale, again, the only reason why I even am thinking Yale is simply because of the offensive power that they have with their key players. But if you see here, and this is another trend that you start to see in college basketball, when they start off slow, but they end the season really hot against their top-ranked teams, 9 times out of 10, they actually do really well in the first round. UNC being the most recent one, UNC sucked this year. And then they went on what? They won 8 of their last 9. They beat San Diego State yesterday. They blew them out. That's a team that I expect to actually have some potential, and we'll get to them here shortly too because they're up next. But for this pick, it's very rare to see in the same side of the bracket a 12 and a 13 team win. I want to say there's a little bit of descriptions as well down here. Yeah, number 4 seeds have won 78.8% of meetings with number 13 seeds. At least one 13 seed has beaten the number 4 in 28 of the last 39 tournaments. Today, Yale's not going to be the one. I got Texas A&M over Yale. I do have a 13 seed. Are you sure you want to leave? No. I do have a 13 seed winning, and we will get to them as well. But Ole Miss versus North Carolina. Again, I'm not even going to go through the stats. I'm not going to go through anything. UNC is on a heater. I think that they are highly motivated. And regardless of who won San Diego State or UNC, I had them beating Ole Miss. I'm just not high on Ole Miss this year. I really don't think they have anything too special. So I'm going UNC as an upset over Ole Miss. Iowa State versus Lipscomb. I'm not even going to go into detail. It's Iowa State for me. Marquette versus New Mexico. Cam Jones is a baller, and I expect him to ball the hell out in the first round, so we're going Marquette. And then Michigan State versus Bryant. You got to go with Jace Richardson and the boys over at Michigan State. I'm going to go to the far left, and then we'll make our way up to the top right. Florida versus Norfolk. This is a no-brainer once again. The best offense in the country. Walter Clayton, Alex Condon, they've got power over there. So we are definitely going Florida in the first round. UConn versus Oklahoma. See, this is a really tough game. UConn is by far better coached, but we also tend to know that UConn's head coach has a bit of a temper. So at any moment in time, he can be thrown off of his game. But the problem with this matchup is Liam McNeely's been extremely inconsistent, which was their previous lottery projected pick. I'll get into detail on that later once we do the mock draft. 9 times out of 10, when you have such an exciting player like a Jeremiah Fears, they tend not to really make it too far in the tournament, unfortunately. We saw it with Trae Young when he went to Oklahoma as well. It takes UConn having one good game from Liam McNeely and a really good coaching performance to get over the hump. And I just don't think Oklahoma has the power that UConn has if they are on. So unfortunately, even though we would all like to see UConn lose in the first round this year, especially to Jeremiah Fears, I unfortunately have UConn getting past Oklahoma. Memphis versus Colorado State. This is actually a funny matchup. Colorado State is the favored to win it on all sports books. Not by much. It's a slight favorite, but Colorado State as a 12 seed is projected to beat Memphis, who is the 5th seed. I'm not high on Memphis whatsoever either. Colorado State, led by Nick Clifford, senior guard/forward, 6'6", averaging roughly 20 points, 10 rebounds game almost. It's like 19 and a half and 9 and a half, but you get the point. At 6'6", averaging almost a double-double, it's a little hard to not take him because he's by far the best player on the floor. A projected top 20 pick. I think this is the 12 seed that also makes it out of this region. Maryland versus Grand Canyon. I like Grand Canyon's spread. I think they're at plus 10.5 right now, but I do see Derek Queen being dominant down low and getting past them. So I'm going Maryland right there, which leads to a really fun matchup between Nick Clifford and Derek Queen. 11 versus 6, and another upset is to be had. Drake versus Missouri. I'm going with Drake. We'll do a bit of a preview for this one, so this way I'm not bullshitting you guys. 30-3 versus 22-11. I think Missouri is one of the most overrated, highest-ranked teams of this year's bracket. Bennett Sturts over at Drake is one of the best scorers in basketball, or in college basketball, I should say, averaging 19 points, 4.5 rebounds, and roughly 6 assists. I just see them having the upper edge, especially if he catches fire. It's over. As you can see here, Missouri not great against their top matchups. They also do play in an incredibly stacked conference, so it is a bit of a struggle for them to pick up these important wins. But Drake also had some competition. They played Miami. They played for Florida Atlantic, Vanderbilt, who is in this tournament, and they played Bradley 3 times. But yeah, you can see here there's a clear advantage for Drake in terms of playing notable matchups. And I think Ben Sturts is going to really go off in this round. So I'm going with Drake. Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. This is a no-brainer in my eyes. Texas Tech, one of my favorite late first-round prospects in this year's draft, JT Toppin, I have a feeling is going to be a menace to society in that game. So Texas Tech, without a doubt. Kansas versus Arkansas. This is another game similar to UConn and Oklahoma. We all want to see Arkansas win. We all hate Hunter Dickinson equally, I'm pretty sure. And I'm going Arkansas. Boogie Flan's coming back. I'm not sure the status of Addo Thiaro, but when you have John Calipari as your head coach, it's a little hard not to try and take them. He has been known as a bedwetter in terms of March Madness, but I do think that this is the year with a new team, a team that's a little bit more bought in than previously. I think this is the year that he makes it out of the first round, I should at least say. But Arkansas being a 10 seed is pretty scary because they will be forced to go up against St. John's next. So I'll give you a little bit of a preview on who we're picking next. I'm trying to see if they don't have an injury report there. Depending on if Addo Thiaro plays is what kind of determines this for me. I'm going to base it as he is. So Arkansas over Kansas as an upset. St. John's versus Omaha, no brainer. I do have Omaha, though, covering the spread, I believe, at 18.5. They're incredible against the spread. I believe they're like 20-13 against the spread, maybe even 23-8. It's something along those lines. But Omaha, I think, covers the spread at 18.5, but I got St. John's winning it with R.J. Lewis, Aaron Scott, a lot of ballers over there. Kadary Richmond, who I have projected as a late second-round pick, even though some mocks don't. I absolutely love his game. So we got St. John's over Omaha. Moving up to the top right of the bracket, this is the East. Duke versus Mount St. Mary. Take Mount St. Mary's spread. I'm telling you, Cooper Flagg, if he does not play, it's going to be a rough showing for Duke, but I do believe they will pull out the victory. As a Duke fan, that's at least what I'm hoping for. So Duke over Mount St. Mary. Mississippi State versus Baylor, a really tough game to predict. VJ Edgecombe, a top 5 pick potentially. One of the most explosive players in college basketball currently. JB, what's going on, man? It's a tough matchup. I want to say Baylor. Mississippi State definitely has some potential. You can see the records there, 21-12, 19-14. To me, I mean, if you're really looking into it more, I think Baylor's a little bit better well-rounded, but defensively, Mississippi State has them. As you can see, though, Mississippi State absolutely horrible against top talent. They went 2-8 against their most notable matchups. Baylor, on the other hand, may not have done much better. Yeah, they went 1-9. To me, I've got to go with the prospect. I think that VJ Edgecombe is really going to solidify himself over Ace Bailey in round number 1, especially with Ace Bailey and Rutgers not being able to make the tournament. So I got VJ Edgecombe and Baylor. You can say upset, but an 8 versus 9 isn't an upset. So number 9 Baylor going up against Duke. Oregon versus Liberty, another interesting matchup, but I'm going to have to stick with Oregon. Again, not much knowledge in the fact of all these teams. I really kept up this year on prospects, not so much teams. So I don't want to, BS you guys on anything. Some of these are just wild predictions, but at the end of the day, I have Oregon beating Liberty. Arizona versus Akron. This is going to be a much closer game, I think, than people are assuming. KJ Lewis has been incredibly inefficient this year. Carter Bryant showing the rawness to his game that many were expecting, even though he was a top recruit in this year's high school draft class. To me, Akron covers the spread, but I'm going to give the slighter edge to Arizona because, again, I don't see multiple 13 seeds taking down the 4 seed. I want to take Akron here. I just don't see 2 teams doing it, and I have my team to do it here shortly. VCU versus BYU. This is actually, I'm going to come out and say it live. This is my lock of the day. I have VCU upsetting BYU. I actually have VCU. Well, I'll let that be. VCU over BYU. We'll look at the preview for this because I'm not too familiar with VCU players. But as you can see here, record-wise, 28-6 versus 24-9 BYU. Notable matchups. 2 guys on the right side for VCU averaging 15 points, a combined 11 rebounds, and about 6 assists. And then you can see here Igor Demon, and I think this is the X factor of this game. His offense has been horrible. It has been extremely inconsistent since the first 3 weeks of college basketball. And to me, I think VCU's veteran presence is going to cause an issue there. So I got VCU over BYU. Wisconsin versus Montana, again, just don't really have to go into much detail with this. Wisconsin. I'm not high on Wisconsin, but we're going to give it to them there. St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt. I got St. Mary's. One of the best, again, when I say the word veteran, I mean juniors and seniors. So just remember that. But one of the best veteran guards in the country, Augustus, I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name, but you see, 14.6 assists. They've got a solid team and, again, an older team. So to me, they're going to take down Vandy. And I'm not going to say with ease, but I got them covering their spread. Bama versus Robert Morris. Again, don't have to talk too much about this. Bama's going to kill them. And on to the Midwest, Houston over SIUE. I'm going Houston without a doubt. Gonzaga versus Georgia is an extremely tough matchup. But again, similar to the Baylor-Mississippi State matchup, I'm going with the prospect. I think Asa Newell is going to have a really good day against Gonzaga. So I got both 9 seeds on the right side of the bracket moving on. Clemson versus McNeese. I think this is actually going to be a lot tougher of a game than people think. I believe McNeese currently is at a plus 7.5 or a plus 8.5 in terms of sports betting to cover their spread. I would take McNeese's spread, but I do have Clemson winning this. I think Clemson is one of those teams this year that could make a really deep push. And on to Purdue versus High Point, and this right here is my second. I will stand on it. Lock of the day. I think High Point beats Purdue, and the reason why I say that, once again, 29-5 to 22-11. I think Purdue is ranked way too high for what they actually are supposed to be. Purdue's got incredible offense, but the defense on High Point is just next level. I have them at worst covering their spread at 7.5. But as you can see here too, late in the season, they dropped 4 games in a row against their notable matchups. And if you look over at High Point, they've played extremely well against their notable matchups. A combined 8-2 with a victory over Yaxel Lendeborg and UAB. So to me, I'm going to go with the 13 seed. And like I said, there tends to be one every year that does it. I've got High Point. So High Point moving on to play Clemson. Illinois versus the winner of Texas and Xavier. It's currently 32-21 Texas, so we're going to assume Texas is moving on. And this is a tough matchup. You got Will Riley and Kasparas Yakachonis versus Trey Johnson. To me, it takes a little bit of a flamethrower of Will Riley and Kasparas to catapult them to victory. I do think Will Riley has a great game. I do think Kasparas has a rough time. I think Trey Johnson has a mediocre game, but I just don't see a second option at Texas that's going to help them catapult over Will Riley, Kasparas, and Illinois. So we are going with the number 6 seed Illinois there. Kentucky versus Troy. I'm not going to even think twice. It's going to be Kentucky. UCLA versus Utah State, an extremely tough matchup for both sides. We'll go with a little bit of a preview here, where Utah State is 26-7, UCLA 22-10. Once again, records don't really mean too much. But as you can see here on the right side is Utah State. 2 very, very good scorers, with UCLA's top scorer only being 13 points per game. I think that's going to cause a little bit of an issue. UCLA's defense is very good, but not great. And Utah State's offense is very, very good. So to me, I'm going Utah State as an upset over UCLA. Tennessee versus Wofford. I see some people going Wofford here, but this is one of those games where I do look at record and I say there's absolutely no shot. Chaz Lanier and Tennessee have been balling as of recently. If you look at their notable matchups this season, Tennessee has beat Baylor. They've beaten Illinois. They lost to Florida and Auburn, but they ended up beating Florida by 20 here. They beat Bama. They beat Auburn again, and then they lost to Florida in their championship conference game. So I'm going Tennessee. I don't even think I have to think twice about it, but Tennessee's got that one. Moving on to the round of 32, and I'm going to try and speed it up a bit here so this way we don't take too long with the brackets. Auburn versus Louisville. This is a tough matchup for Auburn. Louisville has some, like I said, an incredible defensive-minded team. Auburn, a veteran team. Both teams similar success this year, 28-5 and 27-7. Terrence Edwards, Chucky Hepburn, very, very good players. I haven't done this yet in any of my brackets, but I'm going to do it. Louisville upsets the number 1 seeded Auburn and moves on to the Sweet 16. You've seen it here first. Again, like I said, I haven't done this yet in any of my brackets, but let's switch it up. Let's have some fun. I think Louisville upsets Auburn in the round of 32. It would suck for me because I have Auburn making the Final Four or the Elite Eight in half my parlays, so don't mind me. UC San Diego versus Texas A&M. Again, a very strange matchup, nothing of too much excitement. But again, we're going to keep on dancing. UC San Diego to the Sweet 16 as a 12 seed. UC San Diego taking on Louisville in the Elite Eight, or I'm sorry, in the Sweet 16. North Carolina versus Iowa State. Once again, the hot hand continues to ride, and that is exactly where we're going with this. UNC over Iowa State in a major upset as the 11 seed. Again, when a team's hot going into March Madness, you have to think a little bit. And that for me, I'm going UNC. I don't think they're that good. Ian Jackson's been extremely disappointing this year. Drake Powell offensively has been extremely disappointing, but defensively he has been very good. I do think UNC finds a way to get past Iowa State. Marquette versus Michigan State, not thinking twice. Michigan State, and then one of the most recent rivalries in terms of March Madness matchups, you got UNC going up against Michigan State. It's always Michigan State versus UNC or Duke, it seems, every year. And again, we get another matchup of the North Carolinas versus the Michigans. So, interesting matchup there. Florida, UConn, goodbye to the previous 2-time champions. UConn is gone. Florida, like I said, the best offense in the country. Give me Florida every day. Colorado State versus Maryland. This is a very tough matchup. Again, you have a lot of veteran presence over in Colorado State. But once again, I do think Derek Queen's paint dominance is going to be a major factor, and the floor spacing that it's going to create because of them trying to collapse onto Derek Queen. I got Maryland moving on to the Sweet 16, and I think that's going to be a huge game to bump Derek Queen's value up. He's currently projected around that 8 through 12 range. I could see this solidifying himself as that 7 through 9 range. So we got Maryland beating Colorado State. Drake versus Texas Tech. The Cinderella story ends for them. Texas Tech is one of my favorite teams in this year's bracket, and we're going to have Texas Tech continue to roll. St. John's versus Arkansas. Unfortunately, Boogie Flan's inefficiencies and the injury bug that they've had with Addo Thiaro comes to an end. St. John's and their veteran presence led by R.J. Lewis Jr., Aaron Scott, and Kadari Richmond will move them on dancing to the Sweet 16. Moving on to the right side of the bracket, we'll go from bottom to top. Utah State versus Tennessee. Don't even have to think twice. We're going Tennessee. Chaz Linear, like I said, leading that team to major success, and I have them beating the 10th seeded Utah State. Illinois versus Kentucky. It's really hard to think that Kentucky is going to shit the bed once again because they don't have John Calipari. So it's more than likely not that they don't. But again, it takes a Kasparis or Will Riley lights out shooting night to really impact the game. Otega Awu with Kentucky is having an incredible season. I just think Kentucky has a bit more of that veteran presence to their game. So I'm going Kentucky over Illinois. Again, 2 players in the first round projections will fall in March Madness. Clemson versus High Point, don't have to think twice. We're going dancing with Clemson. They're always that team every year that doesn't look that great on paper, but always performs well throughout the entire season. And to me, Clemson's moving on past High Point. The Cinderella story ends there. Georgia versus Houston, no brainer. Houston. I think that Houston's just every year they're a Sweet 16 team. They can just never get the deal done. Bama versus St. Mary's. Once again, no brainer. I'm going Bama. I don't even have to explain twice on that one. And here we go. Let's go dancing. VCU making it to the Sweet 16. I have VCU as my biggest sleeper in this year's tournament. In one bracket, I have them going Elite Eight. We'll think about if we really want them doing it in this one. I'm not going to give any answers on that just yet. But VCU to me is just that team that is going to make headlines. Like I said, very well-rounded team, fun, exciting team, athletic, defensive, well-minded. They've got some scorers. I'm going VCU. Arizona versus Oregon. I think this is where the young Carter Bryant and Arizona fall. I'm going to go Oregon. It's that right there is an incredibly tough matchup to predict. It's 50-50. But for this one, we're going to go Oregon. Duke versus Baylor. VJ Edgecombe's time ends. Cooper Flagg comes back. I have him missing the round of 64. So in the round of 32, Cooper Flagg makes his return, and Duke absolutely dominates Baylor. Moving on to the Sweet 16, we have Louisville versus UC San Diego. The story ends right there. Louisville making it to the Elite Eight. We're going to go from left to right. We're going Duke over Oregon. VCU versus Bama. We are going Bama. UNC versus Michigan State. We're going Michigan State. Down towards the bottom of the bracket, Florida versus Maryland. I have Florida winning this. Houston versus Clemson. Goodbye to the first, or I should say the second first seed. Clemson with a major upset over Houston. And then Texas Tech over St. John's. I got Texas Tech. Again, like I said, I absolutely love what Texas Tech has going on for them. St. John's, Cinderella story, absolute incredible season. Rick Pitino, by far in the conversations now with Coach K for one of the best coaches of all time. He's done it with multiple programs, but the time comes to an end. Texas Tech over St. John's. Tennessee over Kentucky. And we're moving on to the Elite Eights. Florida versus Texas Tech. Give me Texas Tech. I think the story ends. Texas Tech over Florida. Clemson versus Tennessee. Another upset. Give me Clemson over Tennessee. Duke, let's see. Where are the matchups? Oh, there we go. Duke versus Bama. Give me Duke, man. I do think that Cooper Flagg is going to lead this team to major success. And I think it's going to be a very interesting year for them. Every year we say this with Duke. They're so well-rounded. They've got top prospects left and right. But this is the year that I think they've really built the most well-rounded team. Remember the years with Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish? Those were 3 of the top 5 prospects in high school. Pairing a lot of offense on one team, 9 times out of 10 doesn't work. Cooper Flagg, the best freshman defensive player I have seen in my entire lifetime, with also an incredible offensive touch to his game where he's highly efficient. Con Kneppel, an incredible fit next to Cooper Flagg, one of the best 3-and-D spot-up shooters in basketball. We saw in a game where he didn't have Cooper Flagg, he put up 28, 5, and 4, I believe it was, on incredible efficiencies as well. And then you also have Kaman Malawak, one of the most impactful big men. Even though he only plays 20 minutes, his defensive presence is felt every single night. I think it's the best well-rounded Duke team we've seen in quite some time. And that's why I got them dancing on to the Final Four. Louisville versus Michigan State, another Cinderella story ends. Louisville goes down. Michigan State heading to the Final Four. And here's our preview. Michigan State versus Texas Tech. Duke versus Clemson. You got the Battle of the Carolinas versus 2 I can't even really come up with a name for them. Michigan State and Texas Tech. Both games are being played in San Antonio, Texas, so that'll be cool for Texas Tech. And that's also what's going to catapult them over Michigan State. Jace Richardson and Michigan State falls to Texas Tech and JT Toppin. So Texas Tech is the first team that we'll have making it to the tournament championship. And of course, Duke versus Clemson. Clemson beat them earlier in the year, but we got Duke getting their redemption here. And that rhymed. Yes, I know. Duke taking down Clemson. You have a Duke versus Texas Tech men's basketball championship game, and the inner fan in me is going to go with it. I'm going Duke. I think Cooper Flagg finally leads Duke back to the promised land, allowing him to enter the NBA draft without feeling any form of burden of not going back. And again, a little bit of bias there as a Nets fan, hoping that he does enter the draft if we land the number 1 pick. But we got Duke dancing all the way to the champagne room, winning the championship, and we will submit that one there as well. There it is, Final Four, Michigan State, Texas Tech, Clemson, Duke winning it all. Let me know your brackets. Let me know who you guys have winning it all this year. I have a bracket now, 2 of which I have Duke winning, 1 of which I have Texas Tech, 1 of which I have Florida, 1 of which I have Auburn. Those are the main 4 teams that I'm looking at to win it all this year. And this was a different one. Like I said, I didn't have Auburn losing in the round of 32 on any of my other brackets. VCU I've consistently had between the Sweet 16 and the round of 32. So it would suck to see them lose because I have them in every parlay. So those are my picks. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the share screen, and we're going to move on to the mock draft portion of this, which is going to be the best part. Like I said, I already have everything written down. So not to worry, we're not going to take forever. We've already been going for 30 minutes. I'd like to make it an hour and 15 total. So we're going to share the screen here. We're going to get right into it. I did do a custom lottery system because I did one earlier and got specific teams. So I wanted to stick to that so this way my picks go smoothly. We're going to go 1 through 10 without any explanation, and we'll come back to them after. So here we go. With the first overall pick, the Utah Jazz select Cooper Flagg. This is a no-brainer. Doesn't even need to be explained. He's unanimous. Chicago jumps as a play-in team all the way to the 2nd pick, and we're going Dylan Harper. Giddey is a free agent, and I think that they are going to want to go a cheaper route, especially with them being in a full rebuild. The New Orleans Pelicans at 3, this is a perfect spot for them, and a perfect spot for this man right here, VJ Edgecombe, who I believe will top Ace Bailey as the 3rd overall prospect in this year's draft. Washington at 4, they take the biggest boomer bust prospect in this year's draft with Ace Bailey. A lot of people have him falling in this draft now. I'm seeing as low as 6. So the Ace Bailey hype seems to have fallen, and it'll be very interesting to see where he goes in this year's draft. Thoughts on UC San Diego? I got them upsetting in round 1. You know what? Before I even continue with the mock draft here, I'll give you guys my parlays right now because why not? As a sports bettor to hopefully another, I've got time. $5, 25% boost on FanDuel. Arkansas over Kansas, Yale over Texas A&M, Drake over Missouri, Marquette over New Mexico, and I decided to take Akron over Arizona. It's $5 to win 2,039. Don't take that one. That is just an absolute fuck you parlay. But my main parlay of the day is all of tomorrow's games. Not all of tomorrow's games, but my 4 underdogs that I see winning. I've got High Point money line over Purdue, VCU money line over BYU, Drake plus 6.5 over Missouri, and UC San Diego money line over Michigan with a 25% boost that is 10 to win $430. That is my favorite play of the day. And my 5 to win 1,892, I have Auburn to reach the Final Four, Duke to reach the Final Four, Florida to reach the Final Four, Marquette to make the Sweet 16, Colorado State to make the Sweet 16, St. John's to make the Sweet 16, and then Drake and VCU to make it to the round of 32. That is $5 to win 1,892.95 cents. So a fun little parlays that I've got going on. It's going to be very interesting to see how this March Madness goes. Last year was probably my worst one, in all honesty. I was really good at doing them for a while. I didn't watch college basketball for about 2 years because I just got really bored with it after the whole COVID era and Zion era. It was not a good product whatsoever, but this season here has just revived the sport. I think college basketball is at the highest it's ever been, in terms of talent, in terms of stories, in terms of just a lot of teams starting to progress as schools. There's a lot of teams starting to get higher up, especially St. John's being one of the biggest stories this year. Back to the mock draft though, at number 5, Charlotte Hornets. Come on, Malawak. They're going to find that Mark Williams replacement, especially if they look to move him this offseason, which was just reported today. So give me Come on Malawak to the Hornets as the Mark Williams replacement. By the way, Cade Cunningham just hit a game winner uh, over Miami in a comeback win. Brooklyn at 6. This seems to be the pick every single time we land here. I'm going Jeremiah Fears, and I'm sticking with it. I think that his hype is through the roof. Like I said before, I think he has Ja Morant-like trajectory in terms of his draft stock. If this was last year's draft, I think Jeremiah Fears would have been a top 3 pick. I mean, personally, I think last year's draft class sucked. I thought if it was my decision, it would have been Sarr at 1, Stephon Castle at 2, even though I said from the start Castle was the best player in the class. Sarr there was a lot of untapped potential there where if he landed on the right team, he could have been really good. He's still showing signs of improvement. But Stephon Castle, to me, was by far the best player in that draft class. So if you were to redraft, Jeremiah Fears would have been 3, probably 2. Apologies. Got to take the water break after 40 minutes of talking to myself. All right, Jeremiah Fears at 6 to Brooklyn. Again, this is a no trade mock draft as well, so don't expect anything too crazy. Maybe what we'll do is in a couple of days, if not this weekend, we will do specifically just a Brooklyn Nets. We'll do multiple Nets mock drafts where we do trade ups, where we stay at the picks. We'll switch it up and do some stuff there. But at number 7, it's time for Oklahoma City to take their championship window seriously. In the past, they'd go best available, which would have been Trey Johnson. But to me, I think they need to go with the best fit and a player that you can instantly plug in, even though he is still only 19, and use him as a high-quality role player. And that, to me, is the con man himself, Con Kneppel. 3 Duke players going in the top 7. I don't know, man. There's just something about him. I wasn't high on him whatsoever, but seeing him play against, or I should say without, Cooper Flagg made me realize there's a lot more to his game than people think. I can't even really put a comparison on him just yet. So Con Kneppel at 7 to OKC. Toronto at 8. I got Derek Queen. I think they need to find the Jakob Poeltl replacement at some point. They're going to look to move on from RJ Barrett this offseason. They have Emmanuel Quickly at the 1. I think when you look to trade RJ Barrett, it's going to lead to them getting a starting caliber shooting guard. They already have their forward positions filled up. I see Derek Queen here at 8 to Toronto. At number 9, San Antonio. He's going to stay in Texas. I think this is a really good fit long term if they ever look to move De'Aaron Fox, where you can have Stephon Castle and Trey Johnson as your 1-2 punch next to Wemby. Trey Johnson here at pick number 9. Great value for him. He's a top 5 prospect for sure. But again, like Cam Thomas, you can be one of the best scorers in college basketball, but you will fall. And that's what I see here with Trey Johnson. I'll have to look up the stats of this game against Xavier right now because this could help his stock potentially. But to me, I got to stick with him at 9. Miami Heat at 10. I personally don't like this pick, but there are a ton of people who have him going this high. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to switch it up because I really don't think he's going this high. We're going Kasparas Jakubonis here at 10. You'll see who I go at pick number 12 now. I'm pretty much just reversing the picks. Jakubonis is falling on all of my draft boards extensively because the inconsistencies and the issues with playing against top-tier matchups, it's quite visible. I was never high on Kasparas. I never had him in my top 5 personally. I know, mock draft-wise, I would put him in there because I was kind of just sticking to the guidelines of other mock drafts I was watching. But personally, I've never had him in my top 5. Since the beginning of the year, it's practically been in no specific order. Flagg, Harper, Ace, VJ, and Malawak. I think those are the 5 that I've really kind of stuck with consistently. So to me, Kasparas will fall a bit in this year's draft simply due to fit. I don't think Portland needs him. I don't think OKC needs him. I don't really think Toronto needs him if Derek Queen or Kaman Malawak is there. If both are gone, then by all means I can see Toronto taking him. But again, it just depends on where the picks fall. So Portland up here at pick number 11, I think this is a perfect fit for them. Austin Newell, the big man, stretch 4. I can't really even say stretch 4. He can't really shoot the 3 that well, but he's starting to progress in that department. So maybe future stretch 4, Austin Newell out of Georgia. At pick number 12, we are going to go with the sleeper. Again, I don't agree with the pick. I don't think he goes lottery. I don't think he's a lottery level talent, but a lot of people have him now in their top 10, which is absolutely absurd to me. Jace Richardson, I can't wait to watch him because I got to get a glimpse for myself as to if he's really worth the potential hype of being a top 10 pick. I have him going number 12 here. I had him going 10 on paper. Like I said, I did a whole paper draft here previously, but I had him going 10 originally. I'm going to drop him to 12. I just don't think there's any chance in the world he should be going top 10. At pick number 13, let's see. We have Noah Esengu out of France heading over to Dallas. And as you can see here, there's a little bit of slippage with the top player on the board. Noah Esengu out of France, like I said in the last video. I don't have much analysis on him. He plays overseas. It's a bit tough to watch these games. Hopefully no ceilings or somebody puts out like a full season highlight reel and we can kind of get a better glimpse at him. But until then, I'm going to stick with some of the projections, which have him in between 12 through 15. And I think with Dallas, it's a good fit. At pick number 14, personally, again, I have not been high on this player as a lot of people have, but I'm going to kind of try and stick to a combination of what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and what others are doing. And after combining that all together, at pick number 14, I got Ben Seraph as the Trae Young replacement for when they move him. At 6'6", he can play the 1, he can play the 2. He's an incredible facilitator, can shoot the 3, can space the floor, can play off the ball. There's a lot of upside to his game. So I'm going Ben Seraph at 14 to end off our lottery. And once again, there are no trades in this mock draft, so don't mind the length that this is going to take. At pick number 15, the Orlando Magic. Again, I think with what his potential tournament play could do, I think he's going to rise. And I think this is a perfect fit for Orlando with Nick Clifford. 19 points, 9.7 rebounds now per game, shooting roughly 51% from the field and 4.5 assists per night. One of the best role players that you can plug in immediately. Like I said, seasoned college veteran, played all 4 years. I think that this is a plug in and play right away type of guy for Orlando. He provides floor spacing. He provides high intensity defense for his size. He can play the 1, he can play the 2, he can play the 3. This is a no-brainer for me. San Antonio at pick number 16. And as you can see, 2 players are starting to fall on my big board. The San Antonio Spurs got Trey Johnson in the first, which is a high offensive player with upside. To me, I think they take the best defender on the board in Colin Murray-Boyles. To me, I can see him going top 10 if Con Kneppel is not available for OKC's pick, if OKC has that pick outside the top 6. For me, I would say Con Kneppel, Derek Queen, and then Colin Murray-Boyles, depending on where the OKC pick lands and who's available. But those are the 3 prospects I see for OKC. And if they don't get him, if Houston goes point guard, if Portland goes Asa Newell, I could see Colin Murray-Boyles falling. And that's exactly what we have going on here at pick number 16. So they pick up a top 3 defender in this draft class, and they also pick up a top 5 offensive player in this draft class. So a huge draft for San Antonio so far. At pick number 17, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Liam McNeely out of UConn. This is a major drop for McNeely. You can see it right there, 39% from the field. He has been injured here and there this season, which has caused a dip in his performance. He is an NBA level talent with an NBA level 3. But due to the injury and the inefficiencies, I think that's going to hurt him in terms of lottery pick. So I have him falling 3 picks outside of the lottery to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who once again could plug him in immediately off the bench once Jaden McDaniels needs a little bit of rest, if they need a little bit of offense as well. So one of the best floor spacers in this year's draft class when fully healthy, once again. But he has the NBA mechanics of a really good 3-point shooter. So to me, Liam McNeely at 17 is great value. At pick number 18 is the Brooklyn Nets after drafting Oklahoma's point guard Jeremiah Fears. We're going with St. Joe's power forward Rasheer Fleming. There's been a lot of talks about Brooklyn visiting St. Joe's in terms of scouting. They've been very high on Rasheer Fleming. Due to his age, he should be a lottery pick. But because of his age, I see him falling anywhere between 2 to 5 picks outside of the lottery. A lot of mock drafts have him in the early 20s. I don't think he should go that far. I'm going Rasheer Fleming here for the Brooklyn Nets. Jeremiah Fears and Rasheer Fleming would be a hell of a draft class just to start with 3 additional picks coming after. But incredible player, shoots the 3 incredibly well for his size. High intensity defender, great rebounder. I think it's an absolute steal if you can get him at 18. OKC up at pick number 19. And I've been hearing a lot of talks, and this is where I may switch up my mock draft again. But there are a lot of people saying, even with the injury, he should still go higher up. I would hate to see him go here, but it's so hard to pass up on upside. I'm going to go Thomas Sorber. Originally on paper, I have Danny Wolf. We're going to switch that as well. But I'm going Thomas Sorber here at pick number 19 to OKC. Because of how good they are, they don't really need to give a shit about who specifically they're drafting and if they're ready to play now. They have so much depth that they really don't need to worry about that currently. So to me, they go with the biggest upside at the position they really need most, which I think is big man. Because when they have to pay SGA and when they have to pay Jalen Williams, Isaiah Hartenstein's contract is the first that needs to come off the books. Making $30 million a year. Thomas Sorber is the replacement for him. So I'm going with Sorber at 19. At pick number 20 is the Indiana Pacers. Again, it's such a hard pick here because when you think of upside, you have to take the best available, and that to me is Igor Demin. But they're also going to be in a really bad position, big man wise. The reason why I had Danny Wolf at 19 is because I don't think Indiana would take the risk on an incredibly young center in Thomas Sorber. But because he is available here, again, I feel like I need to switch up my mock draft. If you're in the chat, tell me right now. I originally had Igor Demin to Indiana at 20 simply because I don't think he can fall any further than 20. Do you guys agree? Stick with Igor Demin at 20, or do we go Danny Wolf here at 20 for Indiana as the Miles Turner replacement? I'll give you guys a second while I get a sip of water here as well. And it's also halftime for the Texas Xavier game. Texas is up 47-39. Don't be shy, comments. All right. I'm going to switch it up. No, I'm not. Am I? Fuck it. I'm going to stick with the pick. I'm going to go Igor Demin for Indiana. I just think it's too hard to pass up if you're Indiana. A very similar player to Halliburton with a little bit more offensive game to unlock. They could use a really good backup point guard to facilitate off the bench. And the potential TJ McConnell replacement. So I think Igor Demin's a no-brainer at 20. I think his value is too high to be going that late, but we're going with him there. At pick number 21, the Utah Jazz select what should have been a potential top 5 pick this year who fell, Nolan Traore. If they can land Cooper Flag and Nolan Traore, that's a hell of a draft. There's a lot of untapped potential, especially transitioning his game from the EuroLeague to the NBA. I think Utah landing Cooper Flag and Nolan Traore is an incredible draft class. At pick number 22 is the Miami Heat. And once again, I think you have to go a little bit of fit here. Probably makes the most sense. And one of my favorite players in the late first round, Will Riley out of Illinois. Cam Johnson comparison. I think if you were able to land Kasparis Yakachonis or Jace Richardson as your point guard, and landing Will Riley as a potential sharpshooter off the bench, potentially even a full-time starter in the near future, I think that's a hell of a draft for them. From a team that was in the finals not too long ago to a team that had Jimmy Butler drama, trading him not getting much back in return. I think that that's a really good move for them. Will Riley and Kaspers Yakachonis for them in this draft. Previously, I had Jace Richardson and Will Riley, but we switched it up. So again, it's interchangeable, Jace Richardson or Kaspers. Both players I'm not incredibly high on, but Miami needs a point guard, and I think they need a little bit of wing depth. They got Khalil Ware, they got Bam. They can definitely go back up big man if they want to buy into the second round. I don't think they have a second round pick. Could be wrong on that. We'll see that later. But Will Riley at 22. At pick number 23, I had Thomas Sorber originally. So we're going to switch it up. We're going to go Danny Wolf. I think Wolf goes a little bit before Broom. I think Broom's the better player, but I think Wolf in a certain system could fit really well. And for a team who drafted Ace Bailey, I think they're going to need a guy at the big man spot that can play make as well, especially for Alex Sarr. They got to space Sarr as a stretch four potentially. If you're telling me that they would have a starting five of Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly, Ace Bailey, Alex Sarr, and Danny Wolf, I think it's a bit exciting. I think they've definitely got some upside, and they also have multiple fourth round picks. I'm thinking NFL. They have multiple second round picks. So if you can land 2 top 25 picks plus those second rounders, depending on who you get, it's going to be a little bit of an excitement in Washington if they hit on these picks. At pick number 24, the Atlanta Hawks, and again, it's just a good fit. Janai Broom out of Auburn. You can see the stats, one of the best college basketball players this year. Got beaten by Cooper Flagg for Player of the Year. But Janai Broom is one of those guys that you can plug in immediately. I think he can help Onyeka Okongwu as well. You can play Janai Broom at the 4 if Jalen Johnson is hurt. But again, a great guy to come off the bench, a veteran presence in college, an immediate plug-in role player. Janai Broom at 24 is great value. At pick number 25 is the Orlando Magic. And again, I'm going a little bit away from the big board here. We're going Cam Jones, senior out of Marquette. So far, Orlando has landed Nick Clifford and Cam Jones, both seniors, both guys who are immediate plug-in players and ready to come off the bench to give a spark to your bench unit. Both very good scorers, Nick Clifford being a very good defender. I think that that's great value for them. Orlando's in that position where they have so much talent, but not enough win-now ready guys that they need to start making those win-now moves. And I think drafting certain juniors or seniors in this year's draft class could be big helps to that. I also think they are at the point where they need to focus on potentially adding a third star, whether it be at the point guard spot or at the center spot. I think they're going to be in prime position for Trae Young, but we'll see. So they got to pick a direction, though, in that case, because you can't have Paolo and Franz being your primary ball handlers every time. Let's see. Brooklyn at 26. This is a bit of a weird pick, but I've been seeing him sprout and shoot up draft boards. And that's Duke's Isaiah Evans, one of the top high school prospects who did not look that great this year, but has one of the best three-point shots you'll see in college basketball, especially as a freshman. I think that that's something that they're going to highly value. He can be a high-caliber 3-and-D player in this league. And the wing position is a position of need for Brooklyn. You have Jalen Wilson, who may not be back next year. You got Cam Johnson, who may be traded. Noah Clowney is a stretch 4, can play the 5. You have Zaire Williams, who is a free agent. You don't know if he's definitely coming back. I think he has earned his place in Brooklyn, but we'll see. Tariq Whitehead, still young, still raw, requested to stay in the G League this year for full development. I think Isaiah Evans is a great pick there. I'm a Duke guy, like I said, so I've watched him play all season. Very solid pick. I think it's a little high, personally, but a lot of mock drafts have him going late in the first round, and that's what we're going to stick with. Brooklyn with back-to-back picks. At pick number 27, I haven't really got to watch him play yet, but a lot of people are comparing him to Brook Lopez. Brooklyn misses out on Thomas Sorber, who is a player that I've had mocked to Brooklyn 9 times out of 10. But we're going to switch it up. We're going to go Maxime Renaud out of Stanford, the senior center. If Day'Ron Sharpe is unable to reach an agreement to come back, he is a restricted free agent, so either way, he should be able to come back. But if they don't want to pay him, if a team offers him a big contract, Maxime Renaud is an incredible replacement, averaging 20 points, 10.5 rebounds on 47% from the field, At 7'1" and in college, I think 47% is a little low. Come on, Malawak is like he's around like the 68 to 72% field goal percentage. But Maxime is one of those guys that can dominate the paint and rebound very efficiently. And I think that's something that Brooklyn needs, especially with Nick Claxton not being that great of a rebounder himself. Maxime Renaud at 27 is a very good pick. At pick number 28 is the Boston Celtics. And we are going to go with one of my favorite late first round, early second round projected players, and that's Yaxel Lendenborg out of UAB. What can I even say? This kid is an absolute beast, averaging 18 points, 11 rebounds on 54% from the field. He's just a bully. There's no other word to describe him. He is an absolute paint dominant player. There's nothing more to it. I don't know if he can shoot the three. I really haven't looked at the stats too much. But for Boston, I think their depth is really weak, and I think that's what's going to ultimately have them lose to the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think they're going to need to fill up the bench with some veteran college players that you can plug in immediately to make an impact. Yaxel Lendenborg is one of those players. At pick number 29 is the Phoenix Suns. Thanks to a recent trade, I want to say, I forgot who the trade was with already. But Phoenix does have the 29th pick. Oh, yeah, it's via Cleveland. And we're going to go with JT Toppin, sophomore forward out of Texas Tech. There's rumors that he may go back to college. Apparently, he's getting offered some pretty big NIL money. But to me, JT Toppin here at pick number 29 is a no-brainer. He's been absolutely killing it in the past 2 months, really all season, averaging 18 points, 9 rebounds on 55% from the field. He is definitely better than his brother, Obi Toppin, even though Obi did go higher. I do think this draft class is just that stacked. JT Toppin, though, an incredible pick at that value at pick number 29. And to finish off the first round, at pick number 30, the Los Angeles Clippers are going a little bit more defense and going with Noah Penda out of France. Again, overseas player. Haven't really been able to watch him play, but I've heard incredible things about him. There's certain mock drafts that have him going in the top 20. I don't see it. I'm not doing it. We're going to keep him at 30. And real quickly to recap the first round before going into round number 2. Cooper Flag at 1, Harper at 2, VJ at 3, Ace at 4, Malawak at 5, Fears at 6, Kneppel at 7, Queen at 8, Trey Johnson at 9, Kasparis at 10, Asa Newell at 11, Jace Richardson at 12, Noah Sengwu 13, Ben Seraf 14, Nick Clifford 15, Colin Murray Boyles at 16, Liam McNeely at 17, Rasheer Fleming at 18, Sorber at 19, Demon at 20. And to finish off the first round, Nolan Traore at 21, Will Riley at 22, Danny Wolf at 23, Janai Broom at 24, Cam Jones at 25, Isaiah Evans at 26, Maxime Renaud at 27, Yaxel Lendenborg at 28, JT Toppin at 29, and Noah Penda at 30. You guys can comment, rate what you think that first round is. We're going to get right into the second round before we end this off. Let's see. Yeah, we've definitely gone way over time than what I was expecting. Minnesota is at pick number 31, first pick in the second round. And I've got them going with a player who is not on Fanspo. So we're going to go here. We're going to make a note. This is going to be Alex Condon, the Florida 6'11 power forward. Yeah, there's really not much more to it. He's an absolute stud. We're going to go with somebody that I'm not drafting in this class, which is Aaron Scott, unfortunately. But Alex Condon at pick number 31 as a potential Naz Reid replacement. They got Liam McNeely, so they got a floor spacer. I think Condon, he can space the floor as well. But at 6'11", he's an incredible talent. Hard to pass up there at pick number 31. Boston at pick number 32, once again, a no-brainer. Addo Thiaro. I had him projected mid-20s. There's just been a lot of risers in this class. Unfortunately, he falls to the second round, and unfortunately, he falls to Boston. So if you guys have followed me long enough or watched me long enough, you would know that I absolutely hate all things Boston with a passion. It is my least liked sports city. I absolutely hate every single one of their teams. And for them to get Yaxel Lendenborg and Addo Thiaro, that's scary. At pick number 33 and 34 is the Charlotte Hornets. And this is where I have Boogie Fland and Carter Bryant going. I think they're going to go with high upside youth, and Boogie Fland is a potential consolation prize to if and when they move LaMelo Ball. His time seems to be coming to an end. Hopefully they can work out trying to keep him for one more year, because I truly do think with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and if they move Mark Williams, if they get a guy like VJ Edgecombe or Kamon Malawak, I think they have a lot of upside. So I'd like to see LaMelo stay there one more year. At number 35 is the Brooklyn Nets. And again, the connection's been there for over a year. Dink Pate from the G League. He had previous connections with Jordy Fernandez. And in the second round, I think it's a really high upside pick. A point forward, 6'8". He can play the point guard position. He can play the 2. He can play the 3. Great defender. His shot needs some work. The offensive consistency needs some work. But overall, I think it's a high upside prospect in the second round. Philly at number 36. And I'm going with a potential Joel Embiid long-term replacement. A French connection as well. And that is Juan Beringer. Again, probably butchering the name. He has been shooting up draft boards left and right. He was going as high as late first round. To me, I'm going to stick with him in the second round. And I think they're going to go with some depth at the big man spot, especially if Embiid's health becomes an issue. Detroit at pick number 37. This is a player who is also not on Fanspo. There are a few that will be drafted that are not on here. So once again, we're going to make a note. And once again, another player that we're not going to draft is AJ Storr. So with this pick, we're going with St. John's junior forward, RJ Lewis Jr. There's not much to say. He's an incredible pick. He has been leading the St. John's program this season under Rick Pitino. And just an all-around player. I mean, he's a high-caliber scorer. He rebounds very well at 6'7". Very good defender. An immediate 3-and-D plug-in role player for Detroit. And I think that's exactly what they need, especially with guys like Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. coming off the books. I think they need that guy that can kind of go out there and stretch the floor while also defending very well. So, RJ Lewis at pick number 37. Give me 1 second. I've got to take a breath. I will be right back. I'm going to go have a sip of water. But until then, I'll be right back. Literally going to be 2 seconds. All right. At pick number 38, I believe we're at, if I'm not mistaken. We are. San Antonio, pick 38. And we are going to go with Hugo Gonzalez, a projected 18 through 22 caliber first-round pick, falling to 38. Very inconsistent overseas, having a bit of an issue over there. I think he falls, and I think San Antonio is willing to take the risk on him as a high upside player. So far in this draft, let's see, we have had San Antonio select Trey Johnson and Colin Murray Boyles. So a great defender, a great offensive player. Hugo's that guy that can help space the floor and be a really good three-point shooter if he's developed properly. So we got him going 38 to San Antonio. At pick number 39, the Sacramento Kings are going to select another previous first-round projected player. You can see even on my big board, I have him at 28. But we're going to go LeBarian Filan, the point guard out of Alabama. They really don't have a true point guard over there outside of Devin Carter. And I think they're going to want to have a little bit of competition with him. Carter is a guy that you can plug in immediately because he played a couple of years in college. But I think Filan is a nice backup to start. A kid with some high upside. As you can see there, 11 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds on 46% shooting. A very, very good value pick at 39. At pick number 40 is the Golden State Warriors. I could just be being too nice here, but if I was their GM, I would go center because they lack size. Ryan Kalkbrenner, the Creighton big man, averaging 19 points, 9 rebounds on 65.5% shooting. Can space the floor as well a bit, but I think that's a great pick for Golden State. I think they just need a center. Toronto at pick number 41. I'm going to go with Drake Powell. The upside as a high-caliber defender is there. The offense really needs some help, but I think when you're playing next to Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and Scotty Barnes, you really don't need to work on your offense too much in your first year. So I think as a high-upside player with really good defense, at pick number 41, that's a great pick for Toronto. At pick number 42 is the Orlando Magic, and once again, a previous first-round projected pick, the UConn forward Alex Karaban. Would have gone much higher in last year's draft if he decided to enter, but he didn't, and that ultimately causes an issue for him in terms of money that he could have made coming out of the draft. So at pick number 42, we're going Alex Karaban to the Orlando Magic. The theme for Orlando in this draft class for them needs to be focused on shooting, and being able to select Nick Clifford, Cam Jones, and Alex Karaban. You're adding 2 seniors and a junior, all 3 of which can space the floor. Nick Clifford can play make, can rebound. Cam Jones can play make. Karaban can space the floor. And of course, all 3 can space the floor. But I think it's just a really good high value pick for them. They really don't need players with upside anymore. They just need players that they can plug in right away. And I think those 3 picks could really help tremendously off the bench. You could have, depending on who their point guard is next year, whether it's Jalen Suggs or Anthony Black, one of those guys off the bench alongside Cam Jones, Nick Clifford, and Karaban. That's a really good 9-man rotation they could be running. At pick number 43, the Washington Wizards. Once again, a player who was going as high as the mid-20s, Miles Bird. He really shit himself, not to be like that, but he really did shit himself towards the end of the season. The efficiency is horrible, but there's a lot of high upside for him as a high-caliber 3-and-D player. So that's where he's going to fall, is that pick number 43 to the Washington Wizards. At pick number 44 is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they go with a potential Bogdan Bogdanovic caliber type player in Alex Tui out of Australia. That's the comps that I had for him, and that's where we're going to have him going, is OKC. At pick number 45 is the Utah Jazz once again, and the pick that I had for them here is Andrej Stojakovic, the son of Peja. He has been absolutely lighting it up on the college scene as a sophomore, I believe, right? Yeah, sophomore, 20 years old, averaging 18 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists on 43% shooting. Like father, like son. Very similar games. A very good high-value pick at number 45. At pick number 46 is the Chicago Bulls. And I think here you kind of have to go a little bit of fit, but also upside. Once again, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but Markovic out of Serbia, 6'11". I looked up his stats. I forgot them specifically, but they were really good over in Serbia. So we're going to have him going there at pick number 46 as a high upside stretch 4. And for Washington, once again, at pick number 47, a player who is not on the board, unfortunately, because Fanspo has really not updated their draft board in quite some time. We are going to go with Chaz Lanier, the Tennessee guard, and we're going to note that down so this way we can see it at the end of the mock draft. So Chaz Lanier here going at pick number 47. We're just going to select him since we're not drafting him either way. All right, let's see. At pick number, what is this? 48. This is what the Cavs. This is the Cavs. With the Cavs pick, this is a player who's been shooting up draft boards, and I really do think he is a good fit here. 3-and-D, really good. 6'6" guard out of Duke. Zion James. High caliber role player. A guy that you can plug in immediately, give you stellar minutes. You moved on from Karis LeVert. Got DeAndre Hunter to play the wing. I think you got to replace that guard position. And Zion James is that pick for me there. At pick number 49 is the Utah Jazz once again. I swear to God, it's the Jazz and the Wizards that run the second round. I think they need to find their Walker Kessler replacement if they decide to move off of him. And that, to me, is Rocco Zikarsky, 7'2", out of Australia. Once again, haven't been able to watch him play. From my knowledge, though, he can space the floor. And to me, I think that's a lot of upside. So Zikarsky there at pick number 49. At pick number 50 is the Indiana Pacers. And as you can see here, we have a big faller in Ian Jackson. I am not high on him whatsoever. The offensive inconsistencies, he's a liability defensively. It reminds me of a worse version of Cam Thomas coming out of college. But at pick number 50, another player that is not on Fanspo, and that is Otega Awu out of Kentucky. Again, a nice 3-and-D role player to immediately plug in to that Indiana Pacers wannabe contender. They have so many contracts and players that they need to move off of. Miles Turner being a free agent, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, potential trade candidates. I think they need to go with some depth that'll be long-term while also trying to make a move on a potential third star to help Halliburton and Pascal out. So Otega Owu at pick number 50. And at pick number 51 is the Los Angeles Clippers. Once again, another player who is not on the board, and that's Cedric Coward. Another guy who's just spacing the floor. I want to see what plays for Florida, right? I'm going blank on Cedric Coward. Let me double check that. He may be Washington State. Let me see. See, this is the only problem with not having them on Fanspo is you kind of tend to forget exactly where they're from. Cedric Coward, yes, Washington State. I'll pull up his stats for you guys. So this is what you have. He is a 6'6" senior guard, averaging 18.7 rebounds and 4 assists on 56% shooting from the field. His three-point shot, very, very solid. Throughout his career, 4 years, he has shot 33%, 39%, 38%, and 40%. Currently shooting 40% this year. So 84% from the free throw line as well. Last season, he was at 89.5%. Major improvements, though, pretty much every year for him in college. Cedric Coward, to me, is an incredible second-round prospect, and we're going to add this into the notes as well. We're going to take Elliot Cadeo there, but realistically, we're taking Cedric Coward out of Washington State. All right. Coming towards the back end of the draft here at pick number 52, we are going with Ian Jackson to the Washington Wizards. They're so bad, they just need to take the highest upside. They got Ace Bailey, they got Danny Wolf, they got Miles Bird, and they got Chaz Lanier. Go with a young upside player who you can hopefully potentially develop into the high caliber scorer that he has the upside to be. So at pick number 52, I think that's a huge steal. Let's see. At pick number 53 is the New York Knicks, and another player who is not on the board. Again, a player that is so highly projected. On Tankathon, they have him going late first, early second. And that's the point guard out of Spain, Sergio Delaria. Again, I know nothing about him. I have not been able to watch many of the overseas players this season, if any. But I've heard a ton of upside with him. His stats, I've looked them up. They don't look great, which is why I have him being late second round, if anything. So Sergio Delaria to the Knicks at pick number 53. At pick number 54 is the Los Angeles Lakers, their first pick of the draft. And for them, you have to add some form of veteran presence out of college. They're a contender in the West. LeBron, who knows how many years he has left, but you got to start building pieces around Luka. And for me, that's going to be Darian Williams, the 6'6" guard/forward out of Texas Tech, averaging 14 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, and 44% from the field. High caliber defender, has a nice all-around offensive game to him, and he can also play make at the 2 guard, potentially as a forward. Memphis at 55, we are going with Jameer Watkins, one of my favorite second-round prospects in this year's draft class. I am a FSU guy for football. I do like them for basketball as well. I would consider it a secondary team to Duke. But Jameer Watkins is one of those high-end caliber 3-and-D players who should be going much higher in this draft. But not a lot of people are talking about him, if any, potentially being drafted at all. I personally think he'll be late second round as a steal to a team like Cleveland, Memphis, or LA. So for me, I got him landing here at pick number 55 to Memphis. 18 points, 2.5 assists, almost 6 rebounds a game on 43% from the field. An incredible fit for them in which their depth gets even deeper. At pick number 56 is the Phoenix Suns. I have Xavier Lee, the 6'4" junior point guard out of Princeton, having a hell of a season. 17 points, 5.5 assists, 6 rebounds on 44% from the field. They're going to have to trade KD this offseason. Whatever you get back in return, you got to build around to hopefully keep Devin Booker around. I just saw a report today that actually said there's about an 80 to 90% chance that Devin Booker and the Detroit Pistons at some point comes to fruition. So that'll be an interesting talking point this year. That'll really depend on the draft picks that they take. If you see them going with veteran college players like juniors and seniors, like I have them taking, then you would have to think that they're keeping Booker at least for one more season. So we're going to base it off that. Xavier Lee to play the point guard spot if Tyus Jones leaves. I think that's a really solid pick for them at 56, especially since he should probably be a mid-second rounder rather than a late second rounder. But great value there. At pick number 57, this is a forfeited pick, so we're just going to go with anybody because I did actually keep it realistic this time. So at pick number 57 is nobody. At pick number 58 is I believe it's what is it? It's the Magic, right? Yeah, it's the Magic. With number 58, I have them going with a guard. And that's Josan Sannon out of Arizona State, a 6'5" high upside combo guard, averaging 12 points, 1 assist, and 3.5 rebounds. The playmaking aspect to his game needs to be unlocked. And I think playing alongside a guy like Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black could help that a bit. But at 6'5", he brings versatility height-wise for his position. And shooting 42% from the field, it's definitely a project player, likely a G League player for his first year. But I definitely think he has high upside as a late second-round pick. At pick number 59 is the Houston Rockets. They already got Jace Richardson. Originally, I had them going Kasparis at 12, but we decided to switch it up and go Kasparis at 10 to Miami and Jace Richardson at 12 to the Houston Rockets. For me, floor spacer, guy that you can plug in right away, and that's Peyton Sandford out of Iowa. 17 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds, 41% from the field. High caliber three-point sharpshooter. Absolutely love the fit for them there. Especially with guys like Amen Thompson, Sengun, Dylan Brooks. Not a lot of floor spacing in Houston, at least efficiently. I think Sandford could really do that for them. And with the final pick of this full 2-round mock draft, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I know it's pretty late. But with the 60th overall pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have selecting one of my favorite second-round picks, and what I think is an absolute steal. And that's Kadary Richmond, the 6'6" senior point guard out of St. John's, currently averaging 13 points, 5.5 assists, 6.5 rebounds on 49% from the field. He's a do-it-all point guard, and at his height, with his defensive versatility, his ability to play make, his ability to rebound, the ability to shoot the ball consistently and efficiently, I think that this is a great pick to end off the draft. A potential Ty Jerome replacement. I believe he's on an expiring deal, but I think Kadary Richmond is one of those guys that can make an immediate impact in Cleveland. Full 2-round mock draft summary. You guys can see it here. I'll have it saved and posted as well. Again, don't look at the face, don't look at the name. It is right here. We did have to type in the notes for a couple of picks for players who aren't on Fanspo currently. Alex Condon being one of them at 31. RJ Lewis Jr. at 37. Sergio Delaria, Cedric Coward, Otega Wu, and Chaz Lanier. Those are the 5 players who aren't on Fanspo that I had to manually add in through the notes. Rank this mock draft down below. Once again, we do these once a week. I'm probably going to wait until after March Madness to do another one. I just think that you got to really watch these guys and kind of see what the rankings are going to fall or how they're going to fall. But there it is. Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Edgecombe. You guys already know the first round, so I'm not going to go over that again. Let's see. Alex Condon with the first pick in the second round. Ado Thiaro, Boogie Fland, Carter Bryant, Dink Pate, Juan Beringer, RJ Lewis Jr., Hugo Gonzalez, LeBarian Filan, Ryan Kalkbrenner at 40. And to finish off the second round, Drake Powell, Alex Caravan, Miles Bird, Alex Tui, Andrei Stojakovic, Boglajub, Markovic. I haven't tried pronouncing it yet. Hopefully I didn't fully butcher it, but hey, I gave it a shot. At pick number 47, it is Chaz Lanier. Sion James, Rocco Zakarski. At pick number 50, it's Otega Awu. At pick number 51, it's Cedric Coward. And then 52, moving down, Ian Jackson, Sergio Delaria, Darian Williams, Jameer Watkins, Xavier Lee. Pick number 57 is forfeited, so don't mind that. Josan Sannon at 58, Peyton Sandford at 59, and Kadary Richmond at 60. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am definitely going to be doing some March Madness recaps and some Nets recaps as well here moving forward. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at NetsPress. Also follow my college basketball page on Instagram at CBBDraftU. We just hit 100 followers there. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Also, make sure to subscribe to our Brooklyn Nets full-time podcast with Gary, who actually just tuned in. What's going on, man? Follow us or subscribe to us over there at the BK Nothing But Nets podcast. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like to hear a bunch of Nets rants at NetsPressIG. And this has been real. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, follow, leave a like, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.